you know that some of history's greatest thinkers used visualization techniques to stay focused, resilient, and calm, even in the face of death? Imagine standing on the battlefield as Emperor of Rome, with an entire empire waiting on your decisions. That was Marcus Aurelius, and yet he never let the chaos around him invade his mind. Why? Because he trained himself, not just physically or politically, but mentally. He used visualization, reflection, and inner rehearsal to build discipline, detachment, and clarity. This isn't New Age fluff. These were ancient tools used by Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Aurelius. Tools that modern science is only now catching up to. And today, we're diving into those exact techniques, and how they can help you stay focused in a world that's constantly pulling you away from what matters. Stoicism, often misunderstood as emotionless or rigid, is, at its core, a philosophy of inner mastery. It teaches us how to live with purpose, courage, and resilience, not by ignoring life's pain, but by facing it head-on. In a world filled with noise, Stoicism offers clarity. In a time ruled by distraction, it gives us focus. And one of the lesser-known weapons in the Stoic toolkit? Visualization. We often associate visualization with athletes or performers, but the Stoics used it long before modern psychology gave it a name. They used mental imagery to prepare for hardship, maintain composure, reinforce discipline, and stay grounded in what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, for example, didn't rely on inspiration. He created inner stillness through daily mental rehearsal, visualizing challenges before they arrived, and practicing calm before chaos struck. Seneca, a wealthy Roman statesman, practiced poverty in his mind so he would never fear loss. Epictetus, born into slavery, trained himself to view every potential hardship as something he had already lived through in his mind. These men weren't playing mental games. They were practicing for life, for death, for everything in between. And now, you can too. Please bring this into the present day. We live in a world more distracted than any other in human history. Our attention is constantly under siege. The average person checks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes. Notifications, social media, emails, ads, endless scrolling, all pulling your focus away from your goals, your peace, your purpose. We're constantly switching tasks, reacting instead of acting, and getting mentally exhausted without even realizing it. Focus has become a superpower, and most people don't have it. They're tired, scattered, overwhelmed. Not because they're weak, but because they've never been taught how to train their mind. You try to meditate, your mind drifts. You try to read, the urge to check your phone creeps in. You plan your day, and end up in a YouTube rabbit hole by lunch. Sound familiar? The problem isn't just external, it's internal. We've trained our minds to expect stimulation, to avoid stillness, and to flee from discomfort. But here's the paradox. The more you run from discomfort, the more distracted and restless you become. The Stoics knew this. That's why they built mental training into their daily lives. They visualized hardship so they wouldn't be shocked by it. They rehearsed loss so they wouldn't be broken by it. They practiced detachment so they wouldn't be owned by their desires. In a world where we're constantly pulled outward, Stoicism teaches us to go inward. And visualization, true Stoic visualization, is one of the fastest ways to get there. Let's break down 2 key Stoic visualization techniques and how you can use them today. 1. Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This technique comes from Seneca and was practiced religiously by both Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." In practice, this means visualizing worst-case scenarios in advance. What if I lost my job tomorrow? What if I failed publicly? What if someone I love were gone? What if today were my last? This isn't pessimism, it's mental strength training. By rehearsing adversity in your mind, you build resilience before the moment of crisis. You reduce fear because nothing can shock you that you've already faced mentally. Modern psychology calls this stress inoculation. The Stoics called it wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." By holding death in your mind, you sharpen your priorities. You waste less time. You live with greater urgency and intention. 2. Mental rehearsal of virtue. Where negative visualization prepares you for pain, this practice helps you align with virtue. Epictetus taught his students to visualize themselves behaving with wisdom, courage, and discipline before the moment arrived. Ask yourself, how would a wise person respond to this challenge? What would courage look like today? How would I handle this temptation if I were my highest self? Marcus Aurelius didn't just reflect on what might go wrong. He visualized his own response when you wake up in the morning. Tell yourself, "Today I will meet people who are annoying, arrogant, deceitful." He wasn't complaining, he was preparing. This mental rehearsal made him stronger, more composed, and less reactive. It's like building mental armor before you walk into battle. You can do the same. Before entering a difficult conversation, visualize staying calm. Before facing temptation, visualize resisting. Before the day begins, visualize leading it, rather than being led by it. Let's bring this all to life with a story. Picture Marcus Aurelius during the Antonine Plague, a deadly outbreak that claimed millions of lives. As emperor, he was responsible for an entire empire on the brink. Cities were collapsing. Fear was everywhere. Rome was fragile. And yet, Marcus remained grounded. Why? Because he had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in his mind. He had imagined death, loss, fear, and failure. And he met it all not with panic, but with preparation. He wrote in Meditations, "Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation." Marcus practiced negative visualization, not to terrify himself, but to remind himself, even this I can endure. He also used mental rehearsal. Before speaking to a crowd, he would remind himself of their human flaws. Before making decisions, he would visualize acting with justice, courage, and wisdom. This wasn't theory, it was practice. That's what made him a philosopher king, and why his words still speak to us 2,000 years later. Epictetus, too, lived this truth. A man born into slavery, beaten, abused, yet he wrote, "It's not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them." He trained himself to see every hardship as a test, one he'd already passed in his mind. Seneca, wealthy beyond measure, rehearsed sleeping on the ground, eating scraps, wearing rags, to make sure luxury never made him weak. That's the Stoic path. Let's bring it all together. In a world addicted to comfort and distraction, the ancient Stoics show us a different way. They teach us that focus is not found, it's forged, that discipline is not a trait, it's a practice, and that visualization, done with purpose, is one of the greatest tools for building inner strength. The two most powerful Stoic visualization techniques. 1. Premeditatio malorum, visualizing worst-case scenarios to prepare for hardship and reduce fear. 2. Mental rehearsal of virtue, visualizing your ideal response before it happens to act with wisdom and composure. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, all trained their minds this way. And now, so can you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever used visualization to strengthen your focus or courage? Which Stoic technique will you try this week? Negative visualization or mental rehearsal? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. And if you want to dive deeper into this practice, watch our next video, The Stoic Morning Routine. Start your day like Marcus Aurelius. In it, we walk through a step-by-step guide to creating your own Stoic practice that builds discipline, calm, and resilience. Remember what Marcus said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Let visualization guide your way.